All right, class, today we're going to be talking about consumer and producer surplus. So what is consumer surplus? Well, consumer surplus occurs when the consumer is willing to pay more than what they actually pay. And this comes in two different forms. You have the individual consumer surplus and the consumer surplus found in an entire market. Individual consumer surplus can be calculated with just a simple subtraction equation based on the individual demand curve and the price of the good or service that they're purchasing. And you just take what the consumer was willing to pay on their individual demand curve and subtract what they actually paid from that. The other kind of consumer surplus comes at a market level. You take your normal market graph with your price at equilibrium and your supply and demand curve. And you're going to, as you'll see as I start to put the peanut butter cups up, we're talking about the peanut butter cup market today. As I put the peanut butter cups up, you're going to see that the area that you calculate to find the market consumer surplus happens to be the area that falls in between the demand curve and the price level at equilibrium. So as you see, it was kind of a struggle to get these peanut butter cups up. So as you look, the area that you calculate the consumer surplus from is a triangle. So you're going to calculate the area of the triangle, 1/2 your base times your height, and that area of your triangle equals your consumer surplus at the market demand. So in the peanut butter cup surplus, you just calculate. But now we're going to flip and we're going to talk about producer surplus. Now what is producer surplus? Very, very similar to consumer surplus. It's just what a supplier was willing to sell for and what they actually end up selling for. So to calculate producer surplus on an individual market demand, you look and you subtract what you were willing to sell for, say it was $5, from what the price level at equilibrium was, say $10. So you subtract 5 from your 10 and you have a $5 producer surplus. And on the market level, you look and it's the same thing with the consumer. It's a triangle. You calculate 1/2 your base and your height and you multiply it out, find your area, and there's your producer surplus. Now, shifts in the demand curve and supply curve are obviously going to change your consumer and producer surplus calculations. When I bought the peanut butter cups, it was Halloween time. So there was a shift in the supply curve because more people were willing to sell them, because there was also a shift in the demand curve, meaning more people were going to give them out to trick-or-treaters. Now let's review. So what is consumer surplus and what is producer surplus? Well, consumer and producer surplus is just the difference between what you were actually willing to buy or sell a good or service for and what you actually paid for that good or service. And this comes in two forms. You calculate the individual with a subtraction and the market demand with a triangle calculation. We're excited thanks to Chapter 4 of our lovely Cengage textbook. Okay, I'm Anyah Zupancic and I did the whole project. All right.